It's a Guy Jeans podcast.
My guest today is jazz legend Ronnie Laws. He has 27 records, and almost all of them have been on the chart since 1975. He is a former member of Earth, Wind & Fire and has played with Stevie Wonder to Kenny Rogers to Hugh Masekela. He has produced and sang on Debra Laws' 1981 album Very Special. He later played saxophone on Ramsey Lewis' 1983 album Les Fiers. He produced Sister Sledge's album in 1983 and Denise Williams' 1984 album Let's Hear It for the Boy, and Jeff Lorber's 1984 LP In the Heat of the Night. He is a jazz legend, and today's interview is amazing. He gives some great advice to young saxophone players. We talk about him growing up in Texas and watching the Crusaders practice and rehearse, which are neighbors of his, and he calls them his homeboys, and we're going to learn all about that. But without further ado, Ronnie Laws. Ronnie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Guy. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. You know, thanks so much for being on my podcast. What an honor, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
Yeah, I am just blown away on how many records you have done. It's mind-boggling to me, man. Like the library of music that you have, and it's just it just keeps coming because you have more coming out, huh?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm doing a project that I'm doing like a remake of some of my earlier catalog, and then I'm going to add to that some couple of classics. You know,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great project, and I'm very excited about it.
Is it okay? I want to ask you a question. You know, you're a jazz saxophone player and singer and producer. You know, what makes jazz jazz, and what's the difference between jazz fusion, smooth jazz, and jazz funk?
Well, jazz in its in its origin, came out of the South. A mixture of blues and gospel. Yeah. And that came out of, New Orleans jazz, Dixieland, style. And then it just evolved into more progressive styles, like in the late 40s, bebop. Yeah. Which they call straight ahead. And then, in the late 60s, and, from that point on, it evolved into, sort of fused in more a little R&B and other different genres. My music is always, my approach has always been eclectic, which means that, I've always basically had different influences musically. Mm-hmm. I grew up, in a household where my mother was a gospel choir director, in the local church, and so that gospel influence, but she was also very wide ranged in her listening. My mom, she was very influential in exposing us to different genres of music, like jazz and classical. We would, in the household, we'd wake up to a blues radio station at KYOK in Houston, mm-hmm. and KCOH. Those were the two black radio-owned stations. And, and they featured, early in the morning blues. So that's what we were listening to, getting ready to go to school,
Mm-hmm.
and so, and then, I grew up, obviously was impacted, in the 60s with, the Motown, and, impact in the industry, influence in the industry. And then, but, when my brother-in-law, who was had an influence on me because he was I would categorize him as a frustrated saxophonist because he had just gotten out of the military, and he played out he tried to venture into playing alto sax and everything. And so, I would hang around him a lot. I was like around 12 years old, and he would, when I would hang out with him, he would play different, expose me to the jazz, artists at that time, like David Fathead Newman, who was a native of Texas, out of Dallas. Played with Ray Charles. He was in the Ray Charles band, and
oh, cool.
And and he played all different, with Cannonball Adderley. These are all jazz saxophonists, and great players. And so I was greatly influenced by that, and I would, watch him try to, emulate what he was listening to,
Mm-hmm.
and I would really pay close attention to how he, the fingerings on the alto sax, and I don't think he really knew how much I was paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
But one day, as I was, hanging out with him, we were listening, to David Fathead Newman, Hard Time. It was a cut with the Ray Charles band recording. And, I think the name of it was Hard Time.
Uh-huh.
That tune. And he took a break, and I went and picked up the saxophone, and I actually was able to construct a scale, a C scale, and he was like blown away because he had no idea that I was, paying that much attention to, his approach to the instrument, the fingerings and all of that.
You were really watching him. You were just really studying him, yeah.
Closely, I paid I was really attentive to that, and he, it was it was really a funny scene because at that point he said, because as I stated earlier, he attempted to play, but he really wasn't that good. He was, he was a sort of a frustrated, musician. He wanted to play, but the bottom line is he said, at that point he said, "Look, I'm just going to give you the horn," because
awesome.
he thought that I was able to do that. At
cool.
Such a young age, he just said, looking at himself, he said, "Look, I think it's better that you have the horn than me," and so it was at that point that I really took it seriously, and I, basically was self-taught from that point on, and I was really blessed with a good ear,
Mm-hmm.
Musically that means that, whatever I heard, I could sort of emulate, I could sort of, play it on my instrument.
Yeah.
And, but that took time, but I was very influenced by, listening to, LPs and, and the musicians that really impressed me. Most of them were from Houston,
Mm-hmm.
from great musicians, and
So I wanted to ask you, like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
You're isn't that the coolest thing? Like, here you are, you're just watching this friend of yours play the saxophone, and brother-in-law, yeah. And he's, kind of okay at it, and you're watching him, And then you're so good at it, he just goes, here, you take the horn. And little did he know what that would turn into, right? I mean, that's just so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happened. That was the beginning for me,
Yeah.
And it became I won't say an obsession, but I was just really enamored with it, and I never forget when I was around 12 years old, and I will never forget listening one summer day in Houston. I had the radio on, and it was Stevie Wonder's Fingertips. It was a single, and they announced him on radio. Young Stevie Wonder, 12 years old, and so, man, I was listening to that. I said, wow, he's 12 years old. I said, if he can do that, I can do it too,
Yeah.
So that really inspired me, that experience of, being, introduced to his music on radio. I mean, he was the same age as I am. Have you
ever got to like play with him in the?
Oh yeah.
Are you really?
Steve is a very close friend of the family. I mean, very, very. He's like my brother.
Oh no way.
He's very, very close to the family, and but that came later on.
Mm-hmm.
After once I had established myself as an artist.
Yeah.
And in fact, he related something that happened when he was in the studio, and my single "Always There" was released it was in 1975 during the summer, and it was it sort of exploded, and he when he met up with me, he said, hey man, I just want to let you know that cut, your single "Always There" had inspired me to write a composition called "Black Man" that was featured on his "Songs in the Key of Life" album. He said that "Always There" inspired me to write that song, "Black Man." And boy, I say, wow, that is. I mean, I was overwhelmed by him sharing that with me, because we're talking about Stevie Wonder. I mean, an absolute icon and genius. And
both of you guys inspired each other. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, he inspired me.
Yeah.
But like I said later on, I mean, once I, got out there and, we became established as an artist, we occasionally ran into each other. But on one occasion, he shared that with me, and I was really touched by that, And
absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's been a long. It's been a long history of those kind of encounters.
In your hometown, I tell me if I'm wrong, but the Crusaders were neighbors of you?
Those are my homeboys.
Yeah, they're your homeboys. So you were playing with... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they were much older. I mean, they were like with my, my contemporaries, my brother Hubert.
Yeah.
And my brother was a part of they all grew up together, and they formed a band, when they were in high school. And, but they were like 10 and 11 years older than I was at the time. And, but I would, they couldn't get rid of me, because when I found out where they were, Wayne Henderson, actually, one of the Crusaders,
yeah.
They lived behind us, the Hendersons. They lived right behind us.
Yeah.
This is in the neighborhood called Studewood. And and so they would rehearse at Wayne's house, and after school around 3:30 or whatever. And the elementary school I attended was right across the street from where Wayne lived, so I knew where they would rehearse, after school, and so I would just hang out and wait for them on the front porch and wait for them. And when they would, come in and, start setting up, man, I was like a fly on the wall. I would just sit in the corner and just, really observe everything they were doing. I was really in awe of them because, they were really good musicians, even as teenagers.
Yeah. So there was Wayne Henderson on trombone, Joe Sample on keys.
Yeah, Joe Sample on keys, Wilton Felder, sax, and Stick Super
on drums.
On drums.
Yeah.
And there was a player called Lala. He sort of left the group, when they left to go to California, and so he was the bassist at that time. But, when they decided to leave to go to California to pursue their career, as a group, Lala, I guess he decided to go in a different direction.
Larry Carlton, did he play with them as well?
Oh, yeah, Larry, that was much later in their,
okay.
Recording, in their recordings. Larry Carlton, and, he made a major contribution to some of their, their big hits.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw him play in Bakersfield.
Oh, yeah, Larry.
Yeah.
Great player, yeah.
He had some great players with him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So did you end up playing with the Crusaders eventually too, or do some recording with them at all?
Yeah, I was able, they featured me on some of their live performances,
nice.
in some of the festivals, and that's when we were on the same bill. I ended up being on the same bill with them as far as certain festivals that we just happened to be on the same bill, and they would make sure that they would feature me, and it was a huge compliment, man. Because these are, like I said, these are my mentors.
Yeah.
So to be on the same stage with them, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
That passage,
Yeah, absolutely. So cool.
Yeah.
When you were 12 years old, your sister was bragging about you to Kenny Rogers because she was singing backup for him. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then she's all, you got to hear my brother play saxophone. And Kenny's all, cool, we'll bring him over. And you played for him, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
How cool is that, man? 12 years old. So cool.
Yeah.
You must have been blown away.
Amazing. Yeah, you can't script that kind of stuff. I mean, that really happened, and it's really interesting. Once I became established as an artist, we ended up doing a festival together in St. Kitts, the Caribbean, and we were doing a big press conference, and we were all sitting at Kenny and sitting at the table, along with other artists, and the press was asking, we were sitting, being seated and everything, and as soon as they started asking questions to Kenny, before, the first thing that came out of Kenny, he said, "You see this young man that's sitting a few, down a few seats from me?" And they looked at me, and he said, "Yeah, he performed with me when he was 12 years old." And that was so cool, man. It really was, But he recalled that, and he mentioned that to the press.
So did you go on to play with him after that for a while, or did you just do that one little performance? No,
but what's interesting, Kenny and his brother, they they owned a recording studio called Lion's Share in Los Angeles. Very, very, very state-of-the-art recording studio. And there were a lot of artists like Lionel Richie and just a handful of great artists that were performed, that recorded there. And I ended up recording there, and got a chance to to hook up with them occasionally. We just hang out and sort of to talk about what happened, in Houston. Growing up there and what it was like, and so it was cool. But yeah, we ended up having the same manager. Kenny and I, and Lionel Richie. The guy's name was Ken Cragen. You remember the big campaign they had, Hands Across America?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was Ken Cragen's project, that he put together. And he ended up signing me as management, but he was Kenny Rogers' manager, when Kenny was enjoying all of that success.
Yeah.
And I ended up, he ended up being my manager,
So cool.
That's how it worked out, man,
So in 1972, which would make you 21 or 22, you joined Earth, Wind and Fire.
That's correct.
So you're a young man on that band's roster.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like, playing with those dudes?
It was, when I reflect on that, back, it was, and I always share with, when I share the experience with people, that was a very special time because there was a lot going on musically during that period, that era rather, late 60s, early 70s, and but I got the call, from Maurice, White.
Yeah.
They were auditioning, for a horn section, and but Maurice, he had already done his homework. He knew that I was the younger brother of Hubert, my brother Hubert Laws. Hubert was very established, musician, and out of New York, and he's my big brother. He is my older brother, and but he had heard that I, had just moved to Los Angeles, and so he contacted me, and he had a friend of his to contact me, and to have me to come in and audition, and I really, didn't really need to audition because I think he had already formed in his mind that, that he wanted me on board, But I came in and, and played, and after I finished, playing, performing, he said, well, Ronnie, I think, because I thought I was going to be a part of a horn section, not, as a single horn, player in the group. But that was Maurice's concept. He said, we're just going to go with the one horn, just you,
Wow.
Which is really interesting because all the R&B, all the R&B bands during that time, they all had horn sections.
Yeah.
All of them, But Maurice is very innovative. He that's who he was. He did things a little different. But it worked out. Because it ended up being a very unique concept in the presentation of performing. We did live, dates, concerts.
Mm-hmm.
It was very unique. And it was very innovative because Maurice, we were doing, we sort of incorporated, jazz and everything, in the performance. Maurice used to be the drummer with Ramsey Lewis. I don't know if you know who that.
Yeah.
Maurice he was a drummer with Ramsey Lewis, so he had those jazz roots, and he appreciated me bringing that to the table.
So
and it was a great experience because I garnished a lot of my concept of recording from Maurice. I learned a lot about setting up in the studio, and putting tracks together, and tracking, and so I garnished a lot from him, and I would always let him know how much I appreciated that, but he wasn't too happy when I left the group.
Because you decided to do solo stuff, right?
Yeah, I decided to go. Well, when it came time, Clive Davis, we did the group did a showcase for Clive Davis, who was at Columbia Records at the time.
Yeah.
The group performed for him, and he was very excited. He saw a lot of potential, and he signed the group. And Maurice had a production company in connection with that whole setup, and came time to sign on with that. I mean, the contract, and the contract was presented to me. Kalimba, that was Maurice's production company, and I just decided that it was time for me to pursue my solo career, and but as I said, Maurice wasn't too happy about that. But the thing that sort of sparked that was there was an artist, South African artist, very well known trumpet artist, Hubert Laws. And the opportunity came for me to be a part of his band. And because when I was in college, he had a big hit. It was called "Grazing in the Grass." It was a big. It was a summer smash, man. And when it came out, I was sharing with my classmates in college. I said, one day I'm going to play with this guy.
Awesome.
One day I'm going to play with him. And so when I left Earth, Wind & Fire, I was contacted by Wayne Henderson, because Wayne was very closely associated with Masakela and his manager. And they said, yeah, Ronnie, Hugh is looking for, a saxophone, player, to tour. And he said, they're getting ready to tour. And he's auditioning guys. And I said, wow, well, this is the opportunity I was looking forward to. And Wayne gave me a stack of Hughes records and said, you have 2 days to get this together. So
no pressure.
They call it woodshedding. I mean,
yeah.
I those 2 days, man, really getting the front lines and all the music together that I know I would be featured with him. And when we had the first rehearsal, man, Hugh was so blown away, man, because I knew the lines almost as better than he did, and it was his music,
awesome. Yeah.
And but he was very impressed with that, and man, we became very, very good friends. Aside from performing together, he beautiful man. I mean, he shared with me his experience growing up in South Africa, Johannesburg.
Oh, wow.
And during that apartheid era. And,
yeah.
And, so, that was a great experience. So, but it was after that, it was Huey, really, that reminded me, because when I was performing him, he noticed the response I would get, from the audience.
Yeah.
And it came to the point where he said, he just pulled me to the side and said, Ronnie, I think you should consider, just doing your own thing, man. That's the way he spoke. you should do your own thing, man. It's time for you to do, in other words, he was trying to wean me from the group,
Yeah.
Because I was so enamored with him and, and performing with him.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of pushed, the solo thing to the side.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he reminded me, no, man, you should pursue your thing, your solo, and that was the best thing that ever happened because he was very serious about that with me,
Mm-hmm.
because he saw the potential.
It's like the master realizing that his buddy is mastered his instrument. It's time to do his own thing.
That's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So in 1975, you released your first album, Pressure Sensitive. Is that right?
That's correct.
On Blue Note.
Yeah, on Blue Note.
My question for you is, what was it like to get your first record deal from Blue Note? And how did that go about?
Well, it was, I tell you, it was, prior to that, it's not easy cultivating and developing a career in music.
Yeah.
You have your peaks and valleys, and and your low points, your high points.
Yeah.
You have to be resilient and stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a daily challenge. Because if you have to you can't allow anything to distract you from what that goal is.
Yeah.
And so that when I did a lot of shopping around, and when I left Huey's group, I put a demo together and then put my some couple of friends out of Earth, Wind and Fire, Roland Batista, the guitarist, and Larry Dunn, and Larry stayed. He stayed with the group. Roland did too after I left.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got my my sign with Blue Note, with my first recording, I decided I wanted to have them involved because we had become very good friends. Even after the group. And but Roland left the group about a year later, and then I formed my band with him. So man, we did a lot of rehearsing.
Mm-hmm.
And after I put the demo together, we rehearsed a lot, and then I finally, I did shopped the demo around, and a lot of hit and misses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting. I won't mention the guy's name. He was a very popular very successful producer for Motown,
mm-hmm.
and because he was connected. My sister was with his label,
mm-hmm.
and he would have me to, and I was trying to get my record deal happening, and I would I met up with him and it's really interesting. The one of the tracks on the demo was Always There. That was the big single.
Uh-huh.
And so he would have me to come up, and he said, "Well, what you got? What do you have? Let me listen what you got." And so I played that track for him, and after it was finished listening, he was a little he didn't say much.
Yeah.
But then he said, "Well, he said, it sounds okay, Ronnie, but I don't know, and I'm not feeling that one."
Uh-huh.
But that ended up being the big hit when I signed with Blue Note.
Oh, did it? Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that funny how that works?
And he, ran into him after all that, went down.
Yeah.
And man, he said when he first heard it hit on the radio, he he turned it off. He didn't want to hear it because he realized that, it's sort of that haunted him,
Yeah.
But it happens, man. I mean, there are a lot of stories with artists. I mean, groups that are, trying to get signed and everything, and get a deal, and certain A&R people, they just don't hear it.
Yeah.
And I think of there are quite a few experiences that have that's happened, with various artists, that became very successful,
Do you remember the feeling you got when you first signed for that first record label? Do you remember what it was like? I mean, were you just...
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation as to, the one thing, that I knew was that, I was very dedicated, and to putting everything I could into making sure that that I would give it my best effort, for it to be successful. So it was a lot of work involved, a lot of rehearsing, and like I said, put the demo together, did a lot of shopping around, and it took a while, before I got the initial interest at Blue Note. As a matter of fact, one of the artists, when I took the demo and was sitting with the A&R guy there, he was the president of the label, George Butler. And, we were listening, he was listening, and Donald Byrd just happened to come into the office, Butler's office, while the music was playing. And he said, "Man, who is that?"
Yeah.
He said, "Man, I never heard a saxophone player sound like that, and soprano especially, And so he became interested, and to the point where he said, "Well, I'd like to get involved with you, man," And he would have me to come up to his home in the Hollywood Hills, and and he would try to put it together for me, production, get me signed and everything. And he meant, he had very good intentions, but at the time, Donald Byrd and the Blackbirds, they were huge, they were big, and they were doing a lot of touring. But he would always have me to try to make appointments with me to come and hang with them and try to get my record deal going with the label. But it never happened. So as time went on, I through Wayne Henderson, my homeboy, he had a relationship with George Butler, and that's how it began. But I was very, you never know how it's going to turn out with your first debut.
Yeah.
Project, but as it turned out, man, it exploded.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. It charted. It went up to like 25 or something on the U.S. R&B charts.
And R&B, jazz. I mean, it crossed the.
Yeah.
It crossed, the board. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you get a record contract for the first time like that, do they give you some like money up front so you can live and kind of record and stuff like that, and then you got to pay it back after the album sells, kind of a thing?
Yeah, that's the way it worked. That's the way it worked, and I got it was a small advance.
Yeah.
I mean, it got me out of the hood.
Awesome.
It got me out of the hood, and I was able to purchase my first home. And
awesome.
Because prior to that, I was renting and doing like with all other struggling musicians trying to make it. But so got a small advance, able to buy my first home, and so that from that point on, as they say, the rest was history.
Yeah, and you were with Blue Note till 1977. Then you signed with United Artists.
And it was all under the same.
Is it?
company, really. Blue Note was a subsidiary of United Artists.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
it looks like you signed to Capitol, then to Columbia, and those labels were a little bit bigger than Blue Note, or?
Yes, they were. Yeah,
Yeah.
Columbia. Yeah, but Blue Note was an iconic jazz label for. I mean, if you were with Blue Note, I mean that,
You were doing it.
Yeah, the early patriots like John Coltrane and Miles Davis and all the early jazz greats, they were signed to Blue Note.
Oh, that must have been so awesome for you.
It was, but it was a little challenging in that it wasn't, my music was, when it was released, it wasn't the traditional Blue Note genre, of music, and I mean, the traditional line of artists that they signed, because as I said, my music was very eclectic, and they called it fusion because they didn't know how to characterize it.
Yeah.
Because I had a little of this, I had a little of that, but it was expected that because I was Hubert Laws' younger brother, that I was going to just follow along the lines of straight ahead, bebop or straight ahead, but now, when Precious Sensitive was released, it created a whole new concept, a whole new thing,
Yeah.
And so there were certain jazz purists, they didn't immediately embrace that, But the success of the album sort of, changed the minds of a lot of people. A lot of listeners and as well as critics, because there was one critic, Leonard Feather, well-known jazz critic. He wasn't too excited about the release of Precious Sensitive, because it wasn't the tradition of the Blue Note artists, concept. But as I said, as with the success of that, because it ended up being the largest selling debut album in the history of the whole label.
Really?
Yeah. And so things sort of changed after that.
I'm counting 20. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm counting like 27 albums you've done.
That's correct.
Dang, that's a lot of music, man. And
it is.
And dang, almost every single album that I'm looking at has charted in some way or another.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That says something, man. That's talent right there, boy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man.
That's for sure, man. What about your kids? Do you have any kids, and are they musicians too?
Well, my son, Jamin, you don't know him, but he was a part of a sky band called C something.
That's funny, man, because I'm in a ska band.
Yeah, I forgot. I forgot the name of the group, but yeah, he was in a ska band.
Nice. In L.A. or?
It was L.A. Yeah.
And it started with a C.
It like SCE. See, man, what is the name? Oh my goodness.
And was he a horn player?
Yeah, a sax player.
Nice.
Saxophone.
Is he still playing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And is he still playing ska, or is he still?
No, he's solo. He's doing his own thing. I mean, he's been featured with me and some of my live performances over the years, and he's performed with other artists, and so he's putting it together. He's very talented.
Your whole family's got musical talent. I mean, you came from 8 siblings. Is that right? You guys. There's 8 brothers and sisters.
That's correct.
And are they all musically talented?
Well, there were just 4 of us that
Okay.
that really pursued the business, the industry, the careers rather, and but there were, I had the other siblings, like my older sister Blanche. She was a great singer. She was in the gospel, and then I have a brother Johnny who lives still in Houston. He had a good voice. He had a great voice, but it takes a lot of determination to make it in the music industry, and they just didn't want to risk whatever security they had to go and to pursue a music career.
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you over the years at a gig or a concert or something? Has anything crazy ever happened to you while you're up on stage performing and you look out in the crowd and weird stuff's going on, or anything on stage, or can you reminisce about any of that, or can you think of anything?
Well, I remember back in the in the late 70s. I was I was scheduled to do a concert in D.C., Washington, D.C., and during sound check, I always had duplicate horns. I had a big case where I had more than one. I had 2 tenor saxes, 2 altos. I had 2 of everything that I needed.
Yeah.
And so, but during sound check, I only just had the one instrument, in my tenor sax, and we were doing sound check. But so when I went back to the dressing room, someone had ripped off,
No way.
My, and so I wasn't able to do, to go forward with the concert. In fact, I had to go on radio and inform my fans, that what took place, as an explanation of why I couldn't perform, But I remember coming home on the plane, I was so stunned by that. I mean, I was like, paralyzed in a way. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
But on the plane, man, all of a sudden it hit me. Wow, somebody ripped off you, and found out it was an inside thing with the promoter.
Really,
or whatever. And you run it. Unfortunately, he was one of those promoters that that was a little shady. And for whatever reason, maybe he couldn't follow through on the contract. As far as paying, what was contracted. I don't know, but what happened, and but outside of that, nothing. As far as between me and my, in my performances, between me and my audiences, nothing really any unusual happened. I mean, I always got great response, in my performances. And I've always, I've had a lot of respect, for my fan base, man, and a lot of love, man, a lot of love shown over my entire career. I've been doing it for 50-some years, man, and nothing but love out there.
That's so cool. I've heard nightmare stories of artists not getting paid after their shows, and Ray Charles, I had heard this story that he demanded that he get paid before he went on stage. If he didn't get paid, he didn't go on stage or something like that.
I've experienced that. I mean, that happened, it was only maybe, a couple of times with me. It happens, like I said, unfortunately, you have your different levels of promoters.
Yeah.
You have your A promoters, B promoters, and under that, and So it happens, man. It just, unfortunately, it's a part of the the business,
Yeah.
and you just have to, all you can do is learn from it, and have people around you that protect you from
Exactly.
those kind of things happening.
You have a new record that you're working on that's going to be released in 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, it's with a label called Cleopatra.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a good project. I mean, great project. I mean, I'm very excited about it. They came to me and requested that they'd be interested in me doing a remake of some of my earlier catalog, and then to add to that, to do a couple, maybe a couple of classic hits,
Mm-hmm.
And so I agreed to that, so it should be released sometime this year.
So cool, man. And you're headlining the Catalina Island Jazz Festival this year. Is that right?
Yeah, October the 14th.
Oh, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And do you?
Yeah, October the 14th. So it should be a very exciting performance.
So do you get nervous still, or ever, when you go up on stage?
Well,
or is it excitement?
I wouldn't say nervous, but it's like it's just you are so sensitive to what you are expected to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of performance,
mm-hmm.
and you want to put your best effort into the in your performance, and so for me is I don't like to maybe the day or the week of. I mean, I'm really focused on that, and so I in connection with that there's a little dread, and said, man, I just I want to make sure that everything is in place, but once the lights hit and and it's time to go.
Yeah.
All that goes away. I mean, whatever feelings you have as far as nervousness or whatever, that goes.
Yeah.
Away, because the excitement is there, and your audience is there, and they're with high expectations, and so
mm-hmm.
It takes a life of its own, and then you do what you're supposed to do,
yeah.
or what's expected of you to do, So
what's the feeling like when you're out there performing and you just kill it, and the crowd just is, I'm sure the crowds are really, really big, and you have this energy of the crowd, and they're there to see you, and what's that feeling like when everything comes together?
There's a lot of gratification and appreciation.
Yeah.
When your audience is there for you, they're expressing their love and appreciation and respect for you as an artist, and so it means a lot, man. But it cuts both ways. They inspire you, but you inspire them, and then they inspire you as an artist. That
mm-hmm.
the motivation and what they give you, the love that they give you, that that inspires what you do. I mean, as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interchange of
of energy.
Of that.
When you're writing a song, are you thinking about the audience and what they're going to think?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But when you're writing, for me, it's like writing a letter
mm-hmm.
to someone.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. To someone that's special or
Nice.
very, and so, but it's pure inspiration. I mean, it's creativity, inspiration
Mm-hmm.
and creativity involved, and so procreativity, the creator is the one that gives you that gift,
Yeah.
the Almighty God, man. He's the one
Right.
he's the giver of that gift. So when I say, I'm not a creator, I'm we, as humans, we procreate.
Yeah.
But the point is that, the inspiration, comes with the gift that you have as a musician or as an artist, as a composer. That inspiration comes from life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I equate that with, all the things that we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
in this interview. It's related to, my life experiences, starting from age 12 and
Yeah.
to where I am today. And all of that inspires your writing, and how you approach it, And so, you considering those who that you want to share that with, as far as your listening audience and fans or whatever. But the inspiration, it just comes. I mean, it is what it is.
Little did it was your brother-in-law that gave you that sax?
Yeah.
Yeah, little did he know that he was giving a sax to a guy that was going to have 27 charting albums and another one coming up, number 28, and become a legend in the jazz world, man.
Thank you very much, Guy. I appreciate that.
I got one more question for you. So,
all right,
what advice would you give a young saxophone player coming up? What advice would you give them, to the entertainment industry or the music world?
Well, the thing about pursuing any career, well, irrespective of what that is, you can't allow yourself to be distracted from, you set the goal, that this is what you want to do, and the dedication of putting in the time and effort
Mm-hmm.
to pursue that is the primary thing. That's where it begins. It's within your, it's the determination and dedication to, and you have to be resilient, and not be easily discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep your focus, stay focused,
Mm-hmm.
And be willing to dedicate the time and effort to perfect your craft, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And be open to, and humility is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Being, when you have humility, that means you're willing to, open to learning.
Yeah.
A person that's not humble is, thinks they've already, they don't need to listen to take in any more knowledge. Well, they're not going to go very far because,
Mm-hmm.
if you feel that you know everything, then that means you're not teachable.
Mm-hmm.
But you have humility, man. Some of the greatest artists are those who have that. They're always seeking knowledge. They want to continually perfect what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's the key. It's humility and resilience and having a passion,
Mm-hmm.
for doing what you do.
Yeah. I found that, in interviews that I've done, that with musicians and other folks, that the ones that are super, super good at their craft, a lot of times, most of the time, they're super humble about it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a gift, they know that they've been given this gift and they're humble about it. And it's just, it's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. That is the key, man. That's it.
Yeah. Well, Ronnie, what a great podcast, man. That was awesome. That went by so fast.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share that with you.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. I can't wait to see you play live, man. I'm going to try to get to that Catalina Island Jazz Festival October 14th and see you play,
Super.
Man. And
okay, well,
if
I welcome you to come in. I welcome that.
That would be awesome. And if people want to find you and listen to your music, is it on Spotify? And is there a place?
Yes, it is. Spotify, YouTube, the whole gamut of social media.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, Ronnie, thank you so much, buddy. I hope to see you play soon. I hope to talk to you again and meet you in person. And, of course, I wish you the best of luck in the future and keep on playing that sax, man.
Thank you very much, man. And I appreciate the opportunity to share this.
All right. Thanks for the advice, too, and for those young folks coming up.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right.
Guy Jeans Podcast.